So welcome to the 2025 JDM Bait Finesse Reel Buyer's Guide. Now this video is for everybody, but it's specifically for the JDM only snobs. And in this video, I'm going to go over every current Bait Finesse reel for sale in Japan right now as of the recording of this video. And as the title states, this is for Japanese domestic market BFS reels only. So no Chinese, American, or any other market reels. Now how I'm going to do this is I'm going to show you each reel currently for sale, grouping them by brand name. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to give some information on my experience with all the reels in this video that I actually own. And for the reels that I don't own, I'm just going to speculate my opinions. Now I'm pretty sure that there will be at least a couple of reels in this video that most of you guys didn't even know exist. So I suggest you watch till the very end. So let's get started. So we're going to start out with the oldest and most expensive official Bait Finesse reel in Daiwa's lineup, the 2020 STEEZ Air. Now, the STEEZ Air is the reel that spearheaded the current tiny micro spool trend in Bait Finesse, and also is the first reel to claim 1 gram lure castability out of the box. Now, being the most expensive Daiwa BFS reel, it also has some of the highest specs, as it's the only BFS reel from Daiwa that comes in at under 5 ounces because of its magnesium frame and handle side plate. It also has the most ball bearings and also has some reel components that are not used on any other Daiwa reel, like its handle and knob assembly and its zero adjuster cap. Now I don't have the STEEZ Air, but the videos I've seen online showed that it has a spool weight of about 6.2 to 6.4 grams, which by 2025 standards is heavy. Other important BFS specs is a 28mm spool diameter, and it uses Daiwa's air brake system. Now personally, due to its high price, braking system, and heavier spool weight, I would go elsewhere even in Daiwa's own lineup when it comes to Bait Finesse. And that brings us to the next reel. The SS Air TW came out in 2023 and is basically a budget lower spec STEEZ Air. That makes it technically Daiwa's second most expensive BFS reel, and it shares the same magnesium frame and handle side plate as the STEEZ, but the top portion is not ported. It also has less bearings than the STEEZ and a bigger handle and side plate assembly. Daiwa obviously did this to keep the SS Air weight heavier than the STEEZ. But don't let that fool you. I own the SS Air, and when it comes to the most important things you want for Bait Finesse, the SS Air TW is the highest spec BFS reel in Daiwa's lineup, even higher than the STEEZ Air. It has a 28mm spool like the STEEZ, but it's much lighter, coming in at 5.6 grams, and more importantly, it has Daiwa's latest braking system, the SS MagForce. This system is supposed to be less restrictive and allegedly allows the SS Air spool to reach over 40,000 RPM in testing, which Daiwa claims is the highest they've ever achieved. So when you combine this with a much better looking brake adjustment dial, the SS Air is much better than its STEEZ when it comes to Bait Finesse. Next up is the newest shiny BFS reel on the block, the 2025 Alphas BFTW. This reel is basically a highly upgraded replacement of Daiwa's most popular Bait Finesse reel, the 2020 Alphas Air TW. So that means it uses the same aluminum frame and handle side plate, and that makes it a little heavier than the SS Air, coming in at about 5.7 ounces. The Alphas BF is also the third most expensive Bait Finesse reel in Daiwa's lineup. Now I do own this reel, and it is a very significant reel in Daiwa's Bait Finesse history, because with this reel, Daiwa made two very needed changes that caused their previous reels to suffer versus the competition. Now, the first change is the use of the new less restrictive SS MagForce braking system that's also found in the SS Air TW. And change 2 is, while the spool weight remains about the same as the Alpha's Air, coming in at about 6.14 grams, they gave it a much needed bump up in size from 28 millimeters to 30 millimeters. So both of these changes are designed to improve where the old reel suffered, which was casting distance. Now, other things of note that was improved versus the old Alpha's Air is the use of a metal zero adjuster cap and a new, more robust handle versus the old Alpha's Air it replaced. So moving right along is the Mountain Stream Trout specialty reel, the Silver Creek Air TW Stream Custom. And just like its name notates, this reel is made for tight quarters small stream trout fishing that is very popular in Japan. Now, it's also based on the 2020 Alpha's Air, but has been given a special paint job and upgraded components such as the cork knobs, metal drag star, and metal zero adjuster cap. Now, Daiwa has done two main things to this reel to specialize it for mountain stream fishing. The first is they modified the spool to hold less line, and the second thing is they gave it static magnetic braking, which they claim improves casting stability, which is supposedly needed in mountain stream bait finesse. Now, I personally think that's just marketing, but one thing to note on this reel is that its 28mm spool is on the heavier side at about 6.8 grams, and that due to its braking, don't expect this reel to cast as far as other reels. But that could be a good thing due to its lower line capacity. So that brings us to the next reel, which is also a specialty reel, the Gekabijin Air TW PE Special. Now, where the Silver Creek specialized in mountain stream trout fishing, the Gekabijin specializes in light saltwater game, specifically horse mackerel, otherwise known as aging, and is designed to be used with extremely thin and light braided line. And what you're going to get with the Gekabijin is a reel that also is based on the 2020 Alpha's Air, but with special asymmetric frame porting, a nice glossy black paint job, and nice looking red accents. The spool, of course, is 28mm, and just like the Silver Creek, it's also been modified to hold less line and is about 6.8 grams. So once again, in 2025, that's on the heavier side. But unlike the Silver Creek, the Gekabijin uses a braid tune version of Daiwa's air brake, which is supposed to be less restrictive. Now, I do own this reel, and I will say that if you use heavier line, that you will run into line capacity issues, as its line lay is very concave. So that brings us to the last official bait finesse reel in Daiwa's lineup, and it's one that the vast majority of bait finesse anglers don't even know exists, and that is the Saltist BF-TW. Now, this is a saltwater light line game BFS reel designed to be used with braided line. Now, as you can see, unfortunately, this reel doesn't have its own dedicated page on Daiwa Japan's website, but what I can tell you is that it is based, of course, on the 2020 Alpha's Air frame, but they do use a larger 30mm spool and braid tune brakes. Now, I do believe the spool might be a little bit deeper and the line capacity is a little bit more than other Daiwa BFS reels, but there's just not a lot of information out there on social media about this mysterious reel, so unfortunately I don't know what the spool weight is. But what I can tell you is that this is the lowest priced BFS reel in Daiwa Japan's lineup. So if you want more information on this reel, you will have to do a little bit more digging. So as far as Daiwa goes, those are all the official bait finesse reels for sale currently in Japan, and they definitely have the most choices. Now, Daiwa Japan does also have many other bait casters that are definitely BFS capable, like the STEEZ CT Limited, the Silver Wolf, the Alphas SV, and more. But one thing I'm noticing is a definite lack of at least one budget-friendly dedicated BFS reel offering. So there's definitely no TATULA BFS in Japan. But my advice to anyone who is only looking to buy a Daiwa BFS reel, in my opinion and experience, there are really only two choices. Either the SS Air TW or the Alphas BF, purely for their less restrictive brakes. And there's nothing the other Daiwa BFS reels can do that either of these two reels can't do just as well. Now the first reel we're going to talk about is the most beautiful BFS reel currently for sale, the REVO UltraCast BF8. Not only does this reel have a stunning chameleon paint job, but it's also based on the previous REVO platform that was symmetrical instead of the unpopular current asymmetrical REVO frame that Abu Garcia is using. In fact, the UltraCast might be the oldest bait finesse reel available for sale, having come out in 2020. Now just for clarification, the UltraCast is made for light game saltwater fishing, so it does feature a more robust spool, handle, and knob assembly. Now speaking of the spool, since it is an older generation of BFS reel, it sports a huge spool by today's bait finesse standards at 32 millimeters and weighs a whopping 10 grams. Also, it features basic MagTrack static brakes, so don't expect this reel to do any 1 gram lure casting. But I will say that I do own this reel and its performance is actually a lot better than its on-paper specs would suggest. Another great thing about this reel is that it's quite affordable, coming in at well under $200 if you can find one. So that brings us to the last thing, and that is that I don't know how much longer this reel will be in production or if it's still even being made. So if you see one for sale and you want it, I'd buy it as soon as possible. Next up is what probably is the lowest price JDM bait finesse reel available, the Roxani BF7, which was released in 2024. Now currently I'm seeing prices for this reel around $140. So with such a low price, don't expect high on paper specifications. Now this is actually the second generation of the Roxani, and as you can see, they are using the asymmetrical frame design, and while the previous reel had an aluminum frame, the new reel uses a carbon frame. So that's a downgrade. But everything else seems to be an upgrade, as the new reel is lighter, has more bearings, and a drag clicker. Now of course the braking at this price point is going to be a static MagTrack system, and the spool is a bigger than average 33 millimeters and much heavier than average, coming in at a whopping 13 grams without its bearing. So definitely no trout magnet fishing with the Roxani, that's for sure. So basically it's an entry-level reel at an entry-level price, so you're going to get entry-level specs and looks. So this brings us to the most expensive Abu BFS reel, the Xenon LTX. The Xenon is supposed to be a multi-species fresh and light saltwater BFS reel, and it's the follow-up to the mighty 2016 REVO LTX BF8. Prices at Digitaka right now are around $260. Now being Abu Garcia's top of the line BFS reel, compared to its main competition like the Shimano ALDEBARAN BFS, Daiwa's SS Air, or Daiwa's Alpha's BFTW, the Xenon really seems to fall behind on paper where it matters. It's got a 30 millimeter spool that's a whopping 10.5 grams, while its competition has spools that are almost half as light. The braking system is a static MagTrack system, while its competition features dynamic magnetic systems. Now with that being said, I own the Xenon LTX and it performs much better than the numbers would suggest, and while it does struggle with ultralight lures due to its heavy spool, when it comes to heavier bait finesse lures, the Xenon actually dominates. It beat the mighty Shimano ALDEBARAN BFS in a cast battle with the 4-gram lure. The MagTrax brakes are actually a little bit different than you would get in the lower priced reels, as the magnets are placed on both sides of the brake hub, and you can actually add magnets if you want. Now for all you Abu for life guys, recently Abu Garcia Japan released a factory spool upgrade for the Xenon, which is made of magnesium, yet they say it's saltwater safe. The weight appears to be about 7.2 grams without its spool bearing, and it's supposed to feature what appears to be a spring-loaded brake plate that would make it a dynamic system. But in my opinion, this spool should have come standard on the Xenon from the factory. The last Abu reel is actually not a dedicated bait finesse reel, but instead it's a reel that comes with a spare shallow BFS spool. Now this reel has been available in China for at least a year, and I've done a video on it, but it's new to the Japanese market. It's the Abu Garcia Neo. Now there really isn't much to say about the Neo other than it's a very basic bait caster that just comes with an extra 32mm shallow spool that is said to be able to cast down to 3.8 grams or 1/8 of an ounce. Now it does come with a drag clicker, but there's no information about the frame material, so I'm assuming it's graphite. And it's so new to the JDM market that according to Abu Garcia Japan's website, it actually goes on sale this month. And when it does go on sale, I'm going to assume that it's going to be very affordable. Abu Garcia. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Now back in 2016, Abu was king of BFS when it came to reel choices and ultimate casting performance. But now they've definitely taken a step or two backwards while the competition has moved forwards. Now I'm not sure what the reasoning was for the Xenon to have such a heavy spool, or why they aren't offering as many choices like they had in 2016, but I can only hope that Abu turns it around for their next generation of bait finesse reels. So we're going to start Shimano off with the best all-around bait finesse reel ever, the mighty 2022 ALDEBARAN BFS. A reel so good that I've purchased 3 of them so far, and I plan to pick up another. With its magnesium frame, and as far as JDM reels go, I think it's the lightest, coming in at around 4.6 ounces. Now even though the ALDEBARAN BFS is going on 3 years old, it's still state of the art when it comes to bait finesse. It has a 29.5mm spool and an updated version of the best purely magnetic braking system, Shimano's Dynamic FTB. Now the ALDEBARAN BFS's biggest strength is that it has no weaknesses. It's not the best at ultralight lure casting, and it doesn't cast heavier lures the farthest either, but it is at the very top in both of the categories. But when you factor in the unreal casting smoothness and unreal cranking smoothness due to the silent tune and micro module gear technology, the ALDEBARAN BFS is a bait finesse experience that's in a class of its own. And due to its ultra lightweight and low profile, I prefer the ALDEBARAN over the next reel I'm going to talk about. Of course, the next reel needs no introduction, as it's probably the most wanted and desired bait finesse reel of all time, the 2023 CONQUEST BFS. It's the follow-up to the hugely popular 2017 model, and it's an improvement in almost always over the old model as well. It's even smaller, smoother casting, and casts ultralight lures even better. That's because the same technology that went into the 2022 ALDEBARAN BFS got put into the new CONQUEST. And in fact, I credit the Shimano CONQUEST BFS for single-handedly bringing back a round reel renaissance, as it's inspired many copies. Now being a CONQUEST, it is all metal with very few plastic pieces. It has a huge bearing count, and it's built with a precision that few reels can match, Everything about this reel is made to last decades, and if you can afford one, then go for it. Now, of course, being a top of the line Shimano is not going to be cheap, coming in at around $335 currently on Digitaka, but that's much cheaper than the Daiwa STEEZ Air, which I think it would easily dominate when it comes to performance. So the last reel from Shimano is quote unquote the newest, but is actually the oldest when it comes to technology. That is the 2025 updated SLX BFS, which was just released this month in left hand. Now this is Shimano's lowest price entry-level bait finesse reel, and it is actually the last bait finesse reel from Shimano's previous generation. Now the SLX BFS uses a frame and technology that dates back to 2017 in the original Scorpion BFS. Current Digitaka prices show the reel around $160, so it's actually the second cheapest JDM BFS reel, with the only cheaper one being Abu Garcia's Roxani BF7, which looks to be selling for around $140. But for that extra $20 over the Roxani, you do get a far superior reel in pretty much every way. The SLX is smaller, lighter, has a metal frame, much lighter spool that's 32 millimeters and comes in at around 8.8 grams. That's big and heavy by 2025 standards, but it uses Shimano's first generation FTB dynamic braking that allows heavier spools to perform better than their weight would suggest. Now I don't have the old original SLX BFS, but I do plan on getting one of these as soon as the right-handers become available sometime in May. So Shimano is last when it comes to BFS reel choices, but they are definitely first when it comes to the all-around bait finesse experience. If you want the best, just pick your poison, either the ALDEBARAN if you like ultralight low profile, or the CONQUEST if you like that cool, tiny, solid round reel look. Now the 2025 SLX BFS is a solid entry-level BFS reel, but its platform is definitely stuck in 2017, which is understandable given its price. Now if Shimano would come out with some specialty models like Daiwa does, they could definitely make a lot more money, as the bait finesse world is definitely hungry for Shimano BFS reels. But as it stands, the ALDEBARAN and CONQUEST can pretty much do everything at a very high level. But who knows, I hope Shimano surprises us in the future. So there we go guys, every JDM BFS reel currently for sale right now that is stock from the factory, no special editions or limited editions. Now if you think I'm gonna do this for the Chinese market BFS reels, you're crazy. The minute I finish producing that video and uploading it, 5 new reels would pop up in the next week, making the information obsolete. That's just how fast and furious the Chinese tackle market is moving. But I hope this video was helpful in your decision of your next JDM BFS reel. Alright guys, thanks a lot.